Hades 2, the godlike roguelike, somehow manages to live up to that lofty tagline. I mean, Hades 1 managed to live up to that tagline, and somehow Hades 2 manages to come in and polish up everything to a shine worthy of Apollo, while adding enough new mechanics to appease Hephaestus, and of course, enough new beautiful and interesting NPCs to make Aphrodite blush. This time around you play as Malinois, who, unlike her brother, who was a precocious bottom trying to make his way on top, Malinois is a confident top, hell-bent on getting to the bottom, or in between, or on top of one of the 4 romantic options. Oh, right, the main story. Sorry, it's hard to stay on track when there's literal Greek thirst traps all over the screen. You're trying to kill time. Kronos, specifically. Grandpapa Kronos has returned and naturally waged war on his kids, taking over Hades and imprisoning most of the cast of the first game. Hades' newborn daughter, Malinois, was rescued by Hecate, who immediately began training her to take down the Titan of Time. No small task. The game starts you in the midst of the story. Malinois is well into her journey, with her adventure having started well before you booted up the game. It can seem like a lot at first. Who are these characters? What happened to the old cast? Why are we fighting a war? What's with Malinois and what are her relationships with everyone? Instead of slowly introducing you to all the characters in the world, and then building out character relationships and story arcs, it slowly drip feeds you answers to all of this as you play, in kind of a random order too, as some of those things will be introduced to you based on which character you choose to spend time with and how successfully you are in each run. It actually makes the world feel more alive, weirdly enough, because it feels like that world continued and those characters continue to interact with each other after Hades 1. They have lives outside of the player and will continue to move on after credits. And while the story does touch on similar themes of family and all the messiness that can come from that, it's not really about that to the same extent as Hades 1 was. Hades 2 is more about how people make mistakes. People are flawed, people will trip and fall and stumble again and again in their lives, but it's those flaws that make us who we are. It's those mistakes that allow us to grow, to learn from, and become better people. And that change may come slowly through a lot of trial and error, but it does happen. So long as you keep going, keep pulling yourself up, sometimes with the help of some friends, and going for one more run. Those past mistakes may haunt us in one way or another, but we wouldn't be us without them, and growing from them is far more important than trying to erase it, or forget it, or change the past. We see this in a lot of the side stories like Echo and Narcissus. If you don't know that legend, basically, Narcissus earns his namesake and gets Echo cursed. But we see them both here in the afterlife, and by getting to know both of them, we see them grapple with their past and accept what happened, admit fault in some cases, at least as much as a guy named Narcissus can admit fault, and see them change. Narcissus realizes his fault with Echo, and kind of rekindles a bit of a friendship with her, promising to visit and even sometimes show interest in other people aside from him. And Echo moves on from him. She's happy to be friends, but no more, and begins using her curse to help people work through their own issues. They're still both deeply flawed people, of course, but they are growing bit by bit. We see it again with Arachne, who resents the person who turned her into a spider, and gets the opportunity to remove the curse by apologizing to them. Sounds simple, but she refuses and ends up telling them off instead. But not because she doesn't learn anything, it's because upon seeing that person again, and how they haven't changed at all in all those years, that annoys her. Arachne herself has grown from her experience and become a better person despite literally not being human anymore. The person who cursed her stayed almost exactly the same though, learning nothing from her past, let alone admitting fault. This is a constant theme throughout the story. Time cannot be changed. People will make mistakes, but that's okay so long as you grow from them. I mean, the story is literally about killing Kronos, the god of time, in an effort to maintain the will of the Olympian gods and reverse everything that's happened with some timey-wimey BS. But of course, there's some hitches to the plan and plot twists that hammer home these themes that I won't spoil. But they work thanks to the incredible characters Supergiant is known for. Malinois is far from the sarcastic, witty charisma of Zagreus, but no less endearing. She's far more serious, but with that brings a naivety to anything outside of her mission that is both kind of cute and can occasionally result in her own unintended jabs at her own foes. It also gives her more of an internal conflict to deal with. Other characters regularly bring up her being so serious and asking what she'll do once her mission is complete, and it is interesting to see her grapple with that. She's also extremely kind, much like Zagreus, willing to jump to her friend's help at a moment's notice. So it's no surprise she's able to befriend so many people, and why it makes sense so many of those people are concerned with her being so focused on her mission and what will happen to her afterwards. The entire cast feels so genuine, having their own problems to work through, but also willing to help each other and Malinois. The fact that you're part of what is basically a group of rebels hiding out in a small camp as everyone does their part in ways big and small, gives that feeling of a close-knit group of misfits forming a found family. It is an almost entirely new cast of characters, a big risky move for a sequel to a game renowned for those characters, but I loved all of them, all of the new ones, even after beating the game, getting the true ending, and the epilogue. I still want to just hang out with those characters. I kept playing well after I beat the game to finish up some of those characters' quests or max out my relationships with everyone. Okay, look, whenever a character has something to say, you'll see a little exclamation point above their heads. And they had a lot to say. There's so much dialogue, and what's impressive is that it's reactive to everything you do. Characters commenting on your past run, ready to congratulate you on a success or just getting farther than last time, or words of encouragement if you failed. Sometimes they would comment on other characters you met on a run or how you died. I don't know what kind of magic Supergiant did to pull off this kind of dialogue system, where characters always seem to have something relevant to say, but it's like Baldur's Gate 3 level of impressiveness. And it helps that getting to know a lot of these characters feels much more natural this time around. It functions more or less the same as Hades 1. You give characters nectar and it improves your relationships with them, occasionally having to do a quest for them, but sometimes instead you give them fishing lures or bath salts. Functionally it's the same as nectar, but it's framed differently. You're not just giving them something, you're asking them to go hang out with you. You go fishing with them or relax in the hot springs. It feels much less transactional than Hades 1, and more like friends hanging out together and the relationship growing naturally from that. Sometimes into romance. And don't worry, you pervs out there, this is Greek mythology. Everyone is poly as fuck, and totally into open relationships, so you're free to go crazy. I speak from experience. And at first it did feel a little annoying that I could only give one nectar to each person a night, or only ask out one person to fish or to the hot springs once per night. It does make sense though. It would be weird to just dump a bunch of gifts and romantic outings on someone in one go, and it helps to pace out the narrative a bit, and gave me one more thing to slowly work towards and look forward to after each run. But inevitably, I saw less and less of those little exclamation points once credits rolled. Naturally, all good things must come to an end, and I felt kinda sad. Like, I'm gonna miss my rivalry, friends to lovers tension with Nemesis, Dora practicing her haunting on me, grabbing drinks with Odysseus, or Skelmius's wise words. And all these themes fit so well with the gameplay. This is such a good example as to why a story in a video game works best when it takes into account its gameplay and uses it to tell its story. Because this is a roguelike, so you're going to die, and you're going to fail a lot. But that's okay because you learn from that failed run. You learn a little bit more about the area and how its enemies act. You learn a little more of that boss's pattern. You learn a new build combo, or you get resources to upgrade to get stronger, and you learn from your mistakes. So the gameplay feels like an extension of the story. I don't have to wait for dialogue or a cutscene. Playing is as much a part of the storytelling as anything else. Which is funny because it means it's kind of better if you actually kind of suck at the game, because every time you die, there's more dialogue, more chances to talk to your favorite characters, and it just matches the theme better. You're always getting crafting resources on your runs, seeds and ore and fish and stuff to sell to make something useful. Anything from upgrades to weapons to making so that a healing room can spawn, and of course, items to progress the story. And there are a lot of materials to gather, but it is always very quick to gather them. It's always clear what you need for what, and it even tells you where to get the resources. It feels seamless to just grab them on your way through a room, and when you get enough to craft whatever it is you want, it always felt rewarding, especially when you finally crafted that one item to progress your favorite character's questline. Or you gather materials to upgrade your Arcana cards, which replaces the mirror from Hades 1 and is a huge upgrade in my opinion. Now instead of just a list of upgrades, you have cards that each require a certain amount of grasp to equip, and you can upgrade your grasp to a max of 30. So you can't have them all, and of course the more powerful cards use up more grasp. But what's really interesting are the cards that have 0 cost to equip, but instead they have certain requirements to be fulfilled, like requiring you to equip all the cards around this one to activate it, or have every card in one row equipped, and those are of course the most powerful cards. Like the ones that allow you to reroll things, they have requirements like that. Ones that increase the rarity of boons have requirements like that. So you can't just throw on the best, you actually have to plan things out a bit, make sacrifices, forego one card you want to get one you may not care about, but that one will fulfill the requirements of a stronger card. And you can save multiple loadouts, making it easy and kind of encouraging you to mix and match and try new combinations. So you're constantly getting materials to increase your grasp, which allows you to equip new cards and unlock new cards, and these are big upgrades sometimes that will carry over run to run. And the game does this really cool thing where eventually you can unlock a recipe that will make some of those crafting materials increase your health or magic or something else during a run. So even when you max out everything with those resources, you've crafted everything, there's still a reason to go for those resources. They still help you in a run. So no matter what, you are constantly progressing, constantly getting something, getting better, both you as a player as you learn and master the game mechanics, but also you're just getting stronger stat-wise. Even if you fail, things move forward. You can take loss and give up, or you can get up and get just a bit better for your next run. And those runs are just so much fun to play. Supergiant has somehow managed to take one of the most polished games and make it shine even more. It's fluid enough for Poseidon, thanks to the simple chains making your dash now transition into a sprint, so you never really stop. You have this constant fluid movement to dip in and out of combat. Well, they've also added a whole new arsenal of abilities to your tool belt that makes the combat just shine, giving that deeper well of complexity to master. You still have your regular and special attacks, but now your special is almost always a range attack, and both regular and special and your cast have an omega attack. And omega attacks require mana, which will regenerate either between rooms or from a boon. Each god has a mana regen boon, or an arcana card. And these omega attacks are powerful charge attacks that can either sway the flow of combat in your favor or get you killed if you're not careful. And they're not just like a stronger version of your regular attack, they are sometimes pretty dramatic changes, like the staff for example, whose normal attack is just this short range burst or blast. But when you charge it, it creates these columns on either side of you that explode for pretty big damage. So if you aim it properly and get it off, you can clear out whole groups of enemies, but the lengthy charge time can easily lead to you taking damage. Your cast is completely different now. It is now a circle that you drop which slows enemies down. And that's just so much more useful than the cast in Hades 1. It was crucial in crowd control, keeping some of the faster and more deadly enemies at bay, while also holding them steady to charge up my omega attack, and some of the boons you could get for it made it do a lot of damage and comply a status effect from relative safety. Or it just gave me time to get away and gather myself. I found myself using almost every tool the game gave me because the game is tough. You kind of have to. I would jump between my regular attacks and specials, dropping a cast before dashing away to charge an omega attack, firing out columns of magical explosions and clearing out helpless groups of enemies in one satisfying blast. And that's just the staff. There are 6 weapons, all with 4 different aspects, all play very differently from each other, giving a kind of dizzying amount of options before you even start a run. The staff with its short range burst and long range shot for its special already feels wildly different from the sword from Hades 1, but one of the aspects where it makes its omega attacks go off 3 times where you place it, encouraging an omega heavy build. Another makes it so after you drop your cast, you fire a laser between you and your familiar. Yeah, you get cute little guys that run around with you, and adds buffs to your stats and help you fight too, adding even more options to build variety before even starting a run. But if you want something faster and closer range, you have Limit Oros that could have either a parry or homing blades depending on which aspect of it you picked, or you could use the axe and turn it into a Beyblade. I liked all of the weapons in Hades 1, but I definitely had my favorites and stuck with certain aspects. That's not as much of a thing here. I would be hard pressed to pick a favorite, and just swapping aspects felt like playing a completely different weapon, which also encouraged me to try out different builds, different gods, just to see what worked best. So all the gods from Hades 1 are back, with a few new ones, and the returning gods all got a rework to match the new gameplay. Hestia is a personal favorite of the new gods. What can I say? I want to see the world burn. But Apollo is also really fun, increasing the range on all of your attacks, and Hera has a really unique ability to link enemies together when you hit them, so linked enemies also take damage when one of them is hit. So like with the weapons, all the gods feel so different. Zeus can apply Blitz to an enemy, meaning after a little bit of time where you do enough damage, they get struck by a powerful lightning bolt, making it great for hit and run type playstyles, or quickly applying it to a dangerous enemy before dashing away to deal with the rest of the group, knowing that that guy's time is almost up. Or Aphrodite, who always gives you a nudge to get up close and personal with, well, everyone, increasing your damage the closer you are to them. But of course it's combining all the different gods to see what crazy overpowered builds you can make. That's the fun part, with the game encouraging you to do this with the powerful duo boons. So if you get certain boons from 2 gods, they may offer you a duo boon, which makes use of both of their unique traits, like Hestia and Demeter's duo boon, which causes the bird from Hestia to immediately damage the enemy all in one go, and increase damage once you apply Freeze from Demeter, or Aphrodite and Hephaestus dual boon, which creates a heartthrob every time Hephaestus' ability goes off, stuff like that. But even ignoring the dual boons, I was constantly finding fun or overpowered builds. It feels like there's just so much more fun combos here, like getting Blitz and then getting another boon from Zeus that gives Blitz a chance to hit twice, then another boon from Hermes that further increases the chance of chance-based boons, and maybe Apollo's boon that gives attacks a chance to hit twice for good measure. Or combining Hestia's burn with Hera's ability to link damage to enemies. I prefer to just give myself up to the RNG and try to make something out of whatever the game gives me, and I was always able to make something work. There's so many synergies, so many build options, it felt endless. But on top of all the gods, there are kind of these roaming NPCs you can stumble onto in your journey. Kind of like how you would see Thanatos now and then on a run in Hades 1, and compete with him for a bit. You get a couple characters like that here that could challenge you to kill more enemies than them or offer a trade. But there's also multiple gods and characters that show up and just help you. They pop in and kill some of your foes for you and give you an extra boon or upgrade. They only spawn once and usually under pretty specific circumstances, but it was a nice surprise anytime they did show up. and made you feel more like a part of a rebellion or an army, and you're all helping each other on your respective missions. It made the journey feel a little bit less lonely. And Supergiant does such a good job of encouraging you to try new things, new builds. I always feel that some roguelites have a bit of an issue where, because they're often so challenging, you kind of just stick with what works. This item got me really far last run, so you always take it whenever you see it. And you maybe don't ever try anything new because, well, that other thing worked. But here you have the fated list, basically achievements, but you earn some useful resources for completing them, and a subtle thing this list does is there's a fate for each god to get every one of their boons at least once, and during a run, if you get a boon you haven't tried before, there will be like a little scroll, a little symbol next to the boon there to let you know that taking this will progress that fate. It's a small thing, yeah, and you don't have to take it of course, but it was just that little push I needed to give some things a shot, and sometimes it made me realize, oh, this boon is actually pretty strong, or maybe think, okay, it's not working here, but now that I've tried it and I know what it does, I wonder if it would work with this other combo or on that other weapon. It got me to try new things. But if you want to try out new weapons or aspects but don't want to risk it on actual run, you have chaos trials that are great for testing those out, because they often just give you a weapon, pair it with a certain trinket and a bunch of boons, or give you a specific set of circumstances and just sort of lets you try that build, try that weapon in a smaller, more contained like mini run where you're just kind of doing one area. There's a lot more to this game, but it expertly doles out everything out to you at a very comfortable pace, so you never get overwhelmed. It constantly encourages you to try new things, and even if you fail, you still get rewarded with new story, dialogue, or crafting materials. No matter what, you always feel like you're moving forward, like you're accomplishing something. Hades 2 improves on perfection. It gives you more tools to increase the depth of the already deep combat, wraps it up with a great story and lovable characters that all tie the gameplay narrative together, and it all cements Supergiant Games as one of the greats.